I usually start off these talks by saying that plants suck. Thanks. Plants have this amazing ability to suck carbon out of the atmosphere, build it into the vegetation, and return it to the soil. We can do this a bit, or we can do this a lot. This, when we return carbon to the soil, it moves us away from a system that is input dependent, fossil fuel dependent, chemical dependent, and towards a system that is more resilient in the face of climate stress, that is more profitable in the long run because of this climate stress, amongst others, and more productive in the long run. And this matters for the environment, of course, but it also matters for a generation of people who are increasingly concerned about the climate. This is our market, but it also is our voters, the people that will decide tomorrow's regulation. It cannot be understated how overstated how important this is. So Soil Capital's mission is to address that concern, which is our concern as well. And we've set a goal for ourselves by 2025 to accompany 1 million hectares of farmland in Europe, but we're happy to work beyond to store carbon on a net basis. And storing carbon is a great indicator of soil health generally and of regenerative practices. It's definitely not the only indicator, but we see it as a good leading indicator. So we're a team of mostly computer geeks, finance people, and more importantly, farmers and agronomists who have a very deep experience in regenerative agriculture. And we know how to talk to farmers to drive farm level practice change. Farmers really do three things when they farm, and this is a gross oversimplification. They will prepare the land and seed, they will fertilize and protect their crops, and then they'll harvest it. And we try to work with farmers so that they can do something a little bit different. We'd like them to establish a cover crop before the season. We'd like them, I'm checking you because I want to see if you're nodding. we want them to overturn the soil a little bit less and seed more varieties. We want them to fertilize a little bit differently with more organic inputs, less chemical and resource scarce inputs. And we'd like them to build soil health so that they don't need to use as many chemicals as previously. And if they do all that, that's going to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. It's also going to store carbon in the soil, and it's going to enable farmers to harvest a possibly certified low carbon or carbon negative crop. We've developed an application that helps farmers measure, manage, and monetize opportunities from regenerative agriculture, in particular by inputting farm characteristics and farm practices for 3 hours every year. Farmers can actually analyze their carbon emissions, understand how to improve them, certify them, and generate carbon certificates that can be used in the value chain. And shout out to you now, because we did a pilot with AB InBev last year, where we worked with farmers in France to analyze what would happen over 2 periods. We baselined them on their net farm level greenhouse gas emissions, and through the analysis of our tool, we saw where they went. 80% of the farms significantly improved their greenhouse gas emissions. Actually, 50% of them went from being net emitters of carbon to being net sequesters of carbon. And that's really meaningful, because this is the steps we need to take to, at a farm level, deliver carbon neutral value chains. And it also offers an additional dimension to responsible drinking, which is nice. Why this matters is, or what we like to think we do well, is engage actively with farmers that food brands can't necessarily access or convince, because we know how to speak their language, because we know how to incentivize them through our analytics and our financial incentives, how to do this. The pilot we did with ABI is great news, but the better news yet is we brought in, now we work with about 500 farmers. in Belgium, in France, and in the UK. We're also now present in Ireland and Argentina. The first 100 farmers that came in were clearly early adopters, farmers that were regeneratively minded. And 47 out of these 100 farmers were already net storers of carbon when they arrived. So really it shows that agriculture can be a part of the solution. Just 1 year later, 70 farmers are net storers of carbon. They went from collectively storing 12,000 tons of CO2 equivalent, so all greenhouse gases included. A year later, they were storing and avoiding 36,000 tons. That's 4,000, the equivalent of 4,000 Belgians emitting carbon for a year. So that's really climate change in action. And we now have solid evidence that these incentives work, that they drive real regenerative practice change with farmers, that this can be done at scale and profitably for farmers. As a crowd here, you have huge market traction, you have huge market pull, and I think we can really put this to work to deliver the change that everybody needs. Am I on time? Thank you.